Coming up on our newscast tonight. President Moon Jae-in holds a summit meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the two leaders focus on boosting bilateral ties and economic cooperation. World leaders of the ruling and opposition blocs agreed to convene a provisional session of the National Assembly. It's also decided which party will take the leadership of a key panel for the passage of bills. A special media day event is held at the main training facility for the national team, who are preparing for the competition at the 2018 Asian Games. The Korean athletes vowed to haul in at least 65 gold medals in Jakarta. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Once again, our starting point is President Moon Jae-in's state visit to India. On his last full day there, the South Korean leader sat down with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, held a joint press conference as well. Arirang's chief Cheong correspondent Moon Gon-young is traveling with the president. She joins us live on the line from New Delhi. Gon-young, what's the latest?
Well, Daniel, a classic example of the convergence of South Korean President Moon Jae-in's new Southern policy and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Act East policy is how one senior official in the Indian government described it. Following their one-on-one, the third day of the South Korean president's four-day state visit to the world's second most populous nation and the fastest-growing economy, Mr. Moon and Modi adopted a shared vision for common value dubbed Vision for People, Prosperity, Peace, and Our Future. So it's basically an official confirmation and a detailed outline of what the two leaders have recently been highlighting as the cornerstone of South Korea-India ties, to working toward a future-oriented partnership for people, prosperity, and peace based on shared universal values of democracy, free market economy, rule of law, common commitment to a peaceful, stable, secure, free, open, inclusive, and rules-based region. Now, 4 big points they agreed on today. 1, South Korea and India will foster closer people-to-people ties through youth exchange programs, internships, and facilitation of tourism and business through simplified visa procedures. So visa on arrival is something that's been on India's wish list from South Korea for some time now. So that's what they've got. 2, they agreed on partnering up with each other to secure mutual economic growth and contribute to global economic development by matching India's rapid economic growth and its highly skilled workforce, and of course South Korea's technological prowess, manufacturing excellence, and developmental experience. 3, the two sides will work towards the early conclusion of ongoing negotiations to upgrade the South Korea-India Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement and work towards the goal of raising bilateral trade to $50 billion by year 2030. And last but not least, the two nations will together face the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution through joint collaborations in research and development and experience sharing in areas such as renewable energy, material science, robotics, engineering, and health sciences. Daniel.
Right, and President Moon Jae-in was also set to take part in a roundtable with movers and shakers of various businesses, I believe.
That's right, big businesses of the two countries, that is, and that just came to a close. And it was also the highlight of Mr. Moon's first state visit to the South Asian nation. The South Korean president, accompanied by Prime Minister Modi, this is also a very unique gesture by the Prime Minister, met with CEOs and top-level management of big-sized businesses from the two countries for candid solution-seeking discussions, and we will have more updates from this event later in the day. Daniel.
All right, Gon-young, thank you for filling in us on the latest. That was our presidential office correspondent, Moon Gon-young, reporting from New Delhi. A regularly scheduled military drill is suspended here in the nation. A decision regarding the annual Ulchi training was made during this morning's cabinet meeting. However, according to our Park Ji-won, another annual war game, the Taegeuk Exercise, will be carried out.
South Korea has decided to suspend this year's annual Ulchi Exercise. The decision to suspend the government mobilization exercise was announced at a joint press conference by South Korea's Ministry of the Interior and Safety and the Ministry of National Defense on Tuesday morning, following a cabinet meeting earlier in the day.
The government has decided to suspend its Ulchi Exercise plan for this year during Tuesday's cabinet meeting, considering the current security situation, including recent inter-Korean relations, as well as Seoul and Washington's joint decision to suspend the annual Freedom Guardian exercise set for every August.
The Ulchi Exercise had been held in conjunction with the U.S.-led Freedom Guardian exercise as a joint military drill since the two were integrated in the 1970s. However, South Korea's annual command post exercise, the Taegeuk Exercise, which was originally set for June, will take place in late October, along with the Hukuk Defense Drill, which is South Korea's annual field training exercise. Defense Minister Song Young-moo stressed that South Korean military will continue to hold training drills.
The South Korean military will continue to conduct independent drills and training as planned in this year, and any decisions on joint military exercises with the U.S. will be made after close bilateral consultation.
The government also announced that from next year, it will begin a new model of annual military exercises dubbed the Ulchi Exercise, encompassing a broader range of training drills based on the concept of comprehensive security to better cope with threats like terrorism and large-scale disasters. The government also said it will maintain its utmost readiness for any national emergency. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Up north of the border, Kim Jong-un made his first public appearance in 8 days. He has been under the radar for the past week, not meeting America's top diplomat who traveled to the regime, and more surprisingly, not even turning up when Seoul and Pyongyang played his favorite sport, basketball. Kan Young-woo sheds light on what appears to be the North Korean leader's priority.
Pyongyang's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Tuesday that Kim Jong-un has been inspecting a potato farm, construction sites, and a potato starch factory in Samjiyon County, near the north border with China. According to the North State media, Kim said the construction of a new town in Samjiyon County should include modern streets and areas for tourism, sports and cultural activities, as well as housing and industry. Saying that the construction project should not lead to the deforestation in the region, the North Korean leader added that it is necessary to include tree planting and forestation in the plans, a topic that was discussed during the inter-Korean talks last week. Visiting a potato farm in the same area, Kim complimented the workers and county officials for embodying the idea and intentions of the Party Central Committee and for providing a role model for other regions. The North Korean leader's on-site inspection to the potato starch factory in Samjiyon marked his second visit to the region's potato plant in 7 months. Experts say that Kim's recent visits are similar to those of his predecessors.
It's a traditional move by a North Korean leader. Kim Jong-un is using his so-called field guidance to show that he is working to improve his people's living conditions and eventually to gain more leadership power.
Although it was not revealed when Kim's visit to Samjiyon County took place, this was his first reported outing since July 2nd after he toured plants in the northwestern city of Sinuiju. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
The two Korea's sports diplomacy will continue next month in Seoul with football matches between each side's labor unions. According to the South's main labor umbrella group, the Federation of Korean Trade Unions and the Korean Federation of Trade Unions, about 80 North Koreans will be crossing over using the Western Land Route. They've been working since last June to arrange the event with the North's General Federation of Trade Unions of Korea. The event is intended to help implement the Panmunjom Declaration, which focuses on expanding inter-Korean exchanges. This is not the first of such an event. 2015 was the last time the two sides held similar football matches over in Pyongyang. Following Mike Pompeo's trip to Pyongyang, Seoul's top new envoy is set to visit Washington this week. According to the nation's foreign ministry, Lee Do-hoon, the special representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, will be in the U.S. from Wednesday to Saturday to meet his counterparts, including Alex Wong, the State Department's Deputy Assistant Secretary for East Asian Affairs, as well as Matthew Pottinger, National Security Council Senior Director for Asian Affairs. The two sides will share their views on the latest developments surrounding the regime and discuss ways to achieve peace and denuclearization on the peninsula. Mike Pompeo's recent visit to North Korea was criticized by many for not producing concrete results or plans on denuclearization. In response, President Donald Trump, along with his Secretary of State, outlined their trust and reasons for remaining optimistic about the developments. Lee Ji-won shares with us their remarks.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Monday, according to CNN, that ridding North Korea of its nuclear program is a decades-long challenge and that it's ludicrous to think it would happen in the course of a handful of hours. Secretary Pompeo was speaking to U.S. troops on a surprise visit to Afghanistan during his round-the-world trip. Just days earlier, Pompeo had completed his third visit to the North, the first follow-up meeting to their leaders' historic summit in Singapore last month. Pompeo was criticized in the U.S. because the meeting failed to achieve anything substantial related to North Korea's final, fully verified denuclearization. But in Kabul, he defended the outcome of his visit. He said the decades-long challenge will require North Korea to make a fundamental strategic decision. The North, Pompeo said, has told its people for years that without nuclear weapons, they would be at risk of being attacked by the West and by the United States in particular. He then said that what Washington has to do now is to get the entire country to understand that the nuclear weapons they possess today actually represent a threat to themselves, not security, something, according to Pompeo, that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said he understands. The secretary also laid out the steps to creating a peaceful solution, which he said would involve fundamental changes to the Pyongyang-Washington relationship. One of the measures, said Pompeo, is to bring North Korea into the international community and then provide security assurances to help it stand on its own 2 feet and not feel threatened. At a press briefing in Kabul earlier in the day, Pompeo said that there is still a long way to go with Pyongyang, but that the commitment by North Korea made by its leader Kim Jong-un to President Donald Trump has been reinforced by the statement Kim put out following their most recent discussions. Trump also reaffirmed his trust in Kim's promise. He responded for the first time Monday to the latest high-level meeting between the two sides by tweeting that he believes Kim Jong-un will honor the denuclearization deal they not only signed, but more importantly, in his view, shook hands on. But he also warned against possible collusion, referencing the possibility that Beijing could be exerting negative pressure on the North because of Washington's trade policies, and that he hopes that's not the case. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Over at the National Assembly, rival parties have finally reached an agreement on the makeup of the National Assembly that will put legislative affairs back on track after more than a month of paralysis. Kim Min-ji zooms in on the positive developments coming out of Parliament today.
Putting an end to a 41-day vacuum, rival parties have agreed on which party will take leadership posts in the National Assembly and on its standing committees. The consensus was reached Tuesday after hours of grueling talks between the floor leaders of the country's four negotiating blocs.
We have agreed on the following in regards to the formation of the National Assembly for the second half of the 20th National Assembly. The ruling Democratic Party will pick the Speaker, while the main opposition Liberty Korea Party and the minor opposition Bareunmirae Party will each select a Vice Speaker.
As for Parliament's 18 standing committees, the ruling party will chair 8 of them, the main opposition 7, the minor opposition Bareunmirae Party 2, and the joint bloc composed of the Party for Democracy and Peace and the Justice Party will lead 1. As is customary, the ruling party will take the helm of the House Steering Committee, which oversees overall parliamentary affairs on the presidential office, while the main opposition chairs the Legislation and Judiciary Committee, which reviews bills before they're referred to the plenary session for a full floor vote. The rival parties also agreed to set up a task force for further discussions to ensure that the Legislative Committee doesn't have excessive influence over lawmaking, which was a main point of contention during the negotiations. A settlement was long overdue given that the key parliamentary post for the first half of the 20th National Assembly had expired in late May. The agreed-upon arrangement will be put to a vote during an extraordinary session that will kick off for a 2-week run starting Friday, during which confirmation hearings will be held for the nominee for Commissioner General of the National Police Agency and 3 candidates for the Supreme Court. Although the National Assembly is back on track, there are concerns that the July session could be spent getting adjusted, with key positions newly filled. The question now is how quickly rival parties get their hands on the real work, given the stack of pending bills that piled up during the vacuum period. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in ordered an independent investigation into allegations that the previous administration was considering a military crackdown on peaceful protesters. Those candlelight vigils eventually led to the removal of the disgraced leader, who's now on trial for corruption and abuse of power.
President Moon has ordered Defense Minister Song Young-moo to form an independent probe team to swiftly and fairly investigate allegations. The Defense Security Command drew up a document that proposed the possibility of declaring martial law.
A civic group claimed last week that it had a document from the military intel unit outlining ways that wartime martial law could be used to impose order in case Park Geun-hye was not impeached. The investigation team will consist of military prosecutors, but no one with an army background or any links to the Defense Security Command. President Moon decided to launch the probe after urgent consultations with his cabinet Monday evening in New Delhi. The defense chief said the ministry will also abide by the special order and cooperate in the formation of the probe team. The nation's shipbuilders are bouncing back up after experiencing some turbulence. By recording the most orders in the world during the first half of 2018, Seoul beat its biggest rival, China, for the first time in 3 years. According to data by Clarkson Research Services, the number stands at 4.96 million compensated gross tons, the equivalent of 115 vessels, making up some 40% of the total ship orders worldwide. Beijing shipbuilders trailed behind with 4.39 million, or 36% of global orders. Industry experts say the number of orders for this year's H1 spiked some 65% from 2 years back, and Korea's shipbuilding industry is on the road to recovery. South Korea's elite athletes are pushing themselves harder than ever to prepare for this summer's Asian Games. Team Korea is hoping to win over 60 gold in Indonesia and is targeting a 6th consecutive second-place finish. Won Jong-un reports.
South Korea's elite athletes are busy training at Jincheon Sports Village in Chungcheongbuk-do Province ahead of the upcoming 2018 Asian Games in Indonesia. To showcase how Team Korea are preparing for the sporting event, the world-class training facility held its 2018 Asian Games Media Day on Tuesday. In front of the press, athletes and officials expressed their determination ahead of the Asian Games, which is less than 40 days away. Team Korea is aiming to win more than 65 gold medals, but it will face a strong challenge from longtime rival Japan, which is expected to do well as it prepares for the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics.
The reason why the number of gold medals could be lower than before is because of Japan's potential challenge in some sports that we are good at. But at the end of the day, we will try to encourage our athletes to give their best performance.
But the spotlight of the Media Day was on the topic of forming joint Korean teams. South and North Korea have agreed to field joint teams in 3 sports, including women's basketball, dragon boat racing, and rowing at this year's Asian Games. 26 North Korean athletes are set to compete together with 59 South Koreans. And according to the captain of the women's basketball team, who has recently been to North Korea for the Inter-Korean basketball tournament, the joint team should be formed as soon as possible.
When we recently went to North Korea and played games with them, there were some issues regarding communication. We couldn't understand some of their words and they couldn't understand ours. Since basketball is a kind of sport where communication between players is essential, if we're going to field a joint team, we need to get together soon and discuss how to tackle this issue.
Meanwhile, members of the Korean national archery team are immersed in training. Archery, together with taekwondo, fencing, and judo, is one of the sports South Korea is traditionally strong at. And one archer, who won 2 gold medals at the 2010 Asian Games, promises to bring home some more medals this time around.
We are always thankful for the public's interest and love for our discipline. For us to pay back the public, we will make sure the games will always be enjoyable and exciting, and of course, we'll try to get the best results in the end.
A total of 779 South Korean athletes will compete in 39 sports. They're scheduled to depart for Indonesia on August 15th. Each athlete has their own goals for the upcoming Asian Games. But if they're able to do their best and show the results of their 4 years of hard work, then they will be able to secure 6 consecutive second-place finish at the Asian Games. Jongun, Arirang News, Sincheon.
Let's now turn to some World Cup action. Fans are brimming with excitement as the stage is set for the semis. It's an all-European affair. France takes on Belgium, England versus Croatia. Lee Seung-jae provides a glimpse of what's to come when the Final Four take to the pitch.
What started out with 32 countries is now down to 4. And after Brazil and Uruguay were dumped out in the quarterfinals, the semifinal action is a totally European affair. There will only be one winner, but we'll know it'll be either France, Belgium, England, or Croatia holding the World Cup aloft come Sunday. The semifinals kick off Tuesday night local time with one of the most mouth-watering matchups of the tournament so far. France versus Belgium. Both countries have superb goalkeepers, tough defense, and lots of attacking flair. Les Bleus are led by stars including Paul Pogba, Antoine Griezmann, and the 19-year-old sensation Kylian Mbappe, while the Red Devils lineup showcases Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku, and Eden Hazard. While bookmakers have France as the slight favorites, Belgium has a secret weapon, legendary French striker Thierry Henry, who's currently Belgium's assistant coach, and he'll be plotting to take down his own countrymen. On Wednesday, it's the turn of England and Croatia. For English fans, the hope is that football's coming home for the first time since 1966, the one and only time England has ever won the World Cup. But Croatia will be looking to rock the boat and book a place in their first ever World Cup final. Both sides would rather avoid it, but pundits say extra time and penalties could be on the cards, with Croatia knocking out Russia and Denmark on penalties on their road to the semis. England also needed penalties to overcome Colombia in the round of 16. The World Cup final will take place in Moscow on Sunday afternoon, local time. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, Seoul wasn't too bad except for the humidity, but I hear it was sweltering hot in some regions.
Daniel, it was breathable in the last couple of days, but starting today, the country is back to hot and scorching weather. Now, in the south, they were even issued with some heat wave advisories. In fact, tomorrow is going to be even hotter than today in some of the regions, which includes Seoul. And now more areas are expected to get heat wave alerts, so try to find a way to stay cool during the day. The monsoon front that moved up north is expected to temporarily affect the nation again. Tonight until tomorrow morning, the capital and some of the Gangwon province can expect between 5 and 30 millimeters, while more is expected further up north. And speaking of rain, there will also be some sporadic showers during the day tomorrow in the inland areas. In the morning, we start the day in the 20s or at 24 degrees rather, and pretty much the same or a few degrees off in other parts. In the afternoons, it will top out to 30 degrees, and it'll even be hotter in Gwangju and Taegeuk at 33 and 32 degrees. Even until next week, the sky will remain cloudy with some similar temperature readings as well. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you on tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thanks for staying with us.